Welcome to Restless Chipotle Kitchen. Today we're making a quick and easy meal that you can start with rotisserie chicken and frozen ravioli. It's creamy, it's delicious, it's only going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes, okay? Okay, this is a good time to use rotisserie chicken or leftover chicken. There's an article on the blog about cooking chicken ahead and freezing it so that you always have cooked chicken for casseroles. So the chicken is already cooked in this recipe. There's no question about that. I just seasoned it with some salt and it's cooked. But like I said, you can use leftover chicken or rotisserie chicken. That's great too. And I already cooked the ravioli because it's just, you don't need to know how to do that. I mean, you dump the ravioli in boiling water and you cook it until it's done, right? So that's been done. Those two things alone take maybe 10 minutes. So if you're cooking the chicken and the ravioli from frozen and raw, then you can probably figure an extra 10 minutes in this recipe. Otherwise, it's only going to take about 10 to 15 minutes at most. The other things that I have is I have Alfredo sauce, and I thought I had enough Alfredo sauce, but somebody made pasta Alfredo last night and used probably half a cup of the sauce. And since I wanted to do this, and I always like to show you all what to do if you don't have an ingredient, I thought I'd just go ahead and do it this way. So I'm missing about a half a cup of Alfredo sauce. I'm going to use cream of chicken soup. It's good to have cream of chicken, cream of mushroom, cream of onion, cream of celery, some kinds of cream soup on your pantry shelf, because in a situation like this, you can always put it in to whatever cream sauce you're using and make it stretch a little bit further. In this case, I don't need the whole thing, but I'm going to use the whole thing because what am I going to do with half a cup or half a can of cream chicken soup, right? So I'm putting all of that in there. And I'll whisk that up in a little bit. All right, I'm going to need some cream cheese. The recipe on the blog does not call for the dry Italian dressing, but you know, the Good Seasons Italian dressing mix, which is what this is. But I like to use it sometimes, and I didn't have fresh basil, so I'm using this instead. Again, one of the things that you get in the video that you don't get in the recipes on the blog are the exchanges that I might make if there's, you know, if I'm lacking something or something like that, or I have too little of something. So I'm using Good Seasons Italian dressing mix. And remember, I told you all about this frozen crushed garlic. I love this stuff. This time, I think I've got it while it is frozen. And all you have to do is peel this back, and then peel this back, and then you just pop the garlic right out, just like that. So there's one. And there's two. Now, if it's thawed and it thaws very quickly, it won't pop out like that. Each one of these is 1 clove of garlic. The mushrooms are optional. A lot of times I don't use them because my family doesn't really like them, but I just decided they could just pick them out this time. You're gonna need butter for sauteing and some spinach, also something that many of my family members don't like, but I do. And so you're gonna need about 2 cups of spinach that you're gonna add into all of this. And really that's all that you need for this recipe. So what we're gonna do with the spinach is we're just gonna kind of chop it up. And the easiest way that I've found to chop it up is to kind of roll it and then just chop. And then turn it. And if you do that in small sections, then you get it all chopped up good. You could leave the leaves whole, but especially if you've got people that are finicky about spinach, it doesn't work real well. My garlic's thawing out really fast, so I wanted to find some kind of little bowl to put that in before it thawed out all the way. So we're just going to roll it up like that and just make small cuts in it, just like that. The spinach goes in last, and it doesn't cook very long at all. It just like it's dropped in there, stirred around, and it wilts a little bit, and then it's time for it to come. It's time for the dish to be served. The mushrooms are up to you how many you put in. I'm going to just slice them, and I'm probably only going to put a few in because they're going to get picked out and thrown out anyway, but they sure are pretty in there. So, funny story, just before I started the video, I hurt my back really bad, and that was 2 weeks ago. So I was hurrying trying to get through the video, and all of it was fine except for this part right here, this middle part where I'm doing the cooking, and it was blurry and awful and terrible, and it needed to be reshot. But since my back was so messed up, I wasn't able to do that. So this is 2 weeks later, and hopefully we're getting good shots this time. So we're going to melt the butter in the pan, and then we're going to add the garlic. And that's the frozen garlic that I like. It's going to thaw out really, really fast in this hot pan. And we're just going to simmer that a little bit. You never want garlic to scorch because it gets a really terrible flavor, but you do want it to just heat up a little bit until it starts releasing the smell and the kitchen starts smelling garlicky and buttery. Since you're starting with cooked chicken and with cooked ravioli, this really doesn't take very long at all. It's mainly making the sauce and putting it together. So I'm going to cook this for about 2 minutes total, and stir constantly so that the garlic cooks and gets that sweet garlicky flavor. But I'm going to keep a really close eye on it because once the butter starts browning or the garlic starts browning, then it's time to stop and go on to the next step. But generally 2 minutes is about the right amount of time. Once the butter is melted and the garlic has started to soften and cook, I'm going to add my mushrooms. And we're just going to cook those, saute those. They're going to soak up a little bit of the butter, which is great because it gets in all that garlicky flavor. But we're going to cook these just until they soften. And that'll take probably another minute or two. Now, you can see this garlic is getting kind of scorched to the bottom of the pan. There's a way to handle that. You want to get just a little bit of water and put that in and then stir it. All of the garlic will come up off the bottom of the pan. Just like when you're browning butter, if you saw the how to brown butter video, if you put a little bit of water in there, the water will cook out, and you won't have that scorch to the bottom of the pan. So we're going to continue cooking these, and you don't want to put like a cup of water in there or anything. You're just putting maybe a tablespoon of water to maybe 2 tablespoons of water, just enough to unstick the garlic from the bottom of your pan. You definitely want all that garlicky flavor in your sauce, and you don't want to leave any of it in the pan. Now these mushrooms have softened, and so it's time for the next step. So when you put the cream cheese in, I think it goes a lot better if you cut it up into smaller pieces. It just seems to soften and melt down better that way. I like to have the cream cheese very melty before I add the rest of the sauce ingredients, because that way I know that it's going to be a smooth sauce. It's not going to have little chunks of cream cheese in it. longest and hardest part of this recipe is just the stirring process. I'm going to take my whisk and just pull off any of the extra cream cheese and then whisk the sauce right in there. Now, if the sauce seems too thick to you, you can go ahead and add a little bit of cream or a little bit of milk or even a little bit of water or a little bit of chicken broth to thin it down some. Once you get all of your sauce in there, go ahead and whisk it. Again, you want to make sure that you don't have any lumps of cream cheese. They'll look an awful lot like lumps of mushroom. So now we're going to put in the Italian dressing mix, which, if you'll remember, is not in the recipe on the blog. It's just something I do once in a while to change it up. And this is also where you would put in Parmesan if you were going to use that in here. All right, we're going to put in the chicken breast and the cooked ravioli. I love this strainer. It makes working with pasta so easy, especially like ravioli and things like that. It makes it really easy to get all of it. Okay. In fact, if you're thinning down the sauce, the ravioli water is really a good way to go. Mix that in. And you want to make sure you start out with a big pan. This is, I want to say it's a 15-inch skillet. It might be 12-inch, but it wouldn't have hurt for me to have had a bigger pan to do this in. Okay, and once we get that in there and all of that stirred in, we're going to add the spinach. You don't want to add the spinach too soon because it'll get overcooked and slimy, and you want that nice bright green color in there. So once you add the spinach, you probably aren't going to cook it much more than another minute to 2 minutes because everything's already cooked. The ravioli's cooked, and the spinach doesn't take very long to cook. The mushrooms have been sauteed, and it's kind of all ready to go. I'm going to put a little bit of the pasta water in there. I just want to help thin it down a little bit. And there it is. It is literally all ready to go. You could top it with a little Parmesan cheese, a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese. You could put some mozzarella on top and run it under the broiler if you wanted to, but whichever way you do it, this is such a quick and easy meal. All right, let's finish up the rest of the video. So creamy. This is so good. I love this stuff. All right, put it on the plate. This makes 6 to 8 servings, depending. If you've got teenage boys, I would say err on the side of it making 4 to 6, but otherwise it makes about 6 to 8. Now we're just going to add a little bit more cheese. Can't have too much of that, and we're ready to go. Y'all, this is so creamy, it's so rich, and it's so comforting. It's perfect all year long because it only takes just a few minutes, right? I know you're gonna love it. I hope you give it a try. We're going to continue to concentrate on 30-minute meals or quicker. I know that this is a chaotic time of year, going into a chaotic time of year, so I figure if you're like me, you need all the help you can get with quick and easy meals. All right? I hope you'll come back next week. I hope you'll give this a try. Be sure the recipe is written down below, and I know some of y'all have asked me about ingredient measurements and things like that. They're all in the recipe down below, okay? If you'll just scroll down, You'll find the full recipe there. And then the nutrition information and more tips, you'll find those over on the blog, and the link is down below too, okay? Be sure to subscribe, and please sign up for the email list. That way you're not ever gonna miss a recipe, whether it's on the blog or whether it's here on YouTube, all right? Okay, I love y'all, and I'll talk to you later. Oh, and Amy and Decky, I love y'all. Bye-bye.